What time is it? Podcast time. It's a celebration. What time is it? Podcast time. I actually don't know where my face even is. I guess the video's off, which is fine because I'm driving. I don't usually record typical podcast episodes in the car while driving, but I have a little bit of a drive and I've got a whole lot of thoughts and feelings. So I'm not really sure how I'll handle this on YouTube because I usually put my regular episodes on there. I don't know. It might be, I don't know what to do. We'll figure it out. My name is Melissa Hemming. If a life coach and a therapist had a baby, you get me. And this is It's Your Effin' Journey podcast. I don't even know if I said that. I don't even know what's going on. I am on my way to a graduation party for a dear friend of mine's daughter, which actually, I started getting emotional about driving there, which is so fucking crazy to me. I just happen to really love this family, and I'm just excited to see them. So I'm not going to I can't even talk about what they mean to me or why they're part of my life because I'll cry, and I don't want to cry anymore. But why am I even crying? I'm having a great day. I'm in a great place. I don't know. I'm just, maybe, you know what? It is Mercury retrograde. It is Cancer season. So we're getting all the Cancer feels over here. So I saw Lionel Richie last night in concert. OMG. So I heard he was coming. He is someone that I grew up listening to. So I have a really super challenging relationship with my parents right now. And I don't even know if I've talked about it on here. I don't know. If I have, it may have been pretty PG. And part of me is scared about talking about it, but it's just on my heart today, so I just have to. And honestly, last week's episode was so raw and hard for me to post, but I got so many encouraging messages about it and people that reached out saying that they really needed that. So maybe that's, I don't know, maybe I'm just fucking raw dogging my life right now and sharing all of it because it helps. I don't know. We'll see. Anywho, I saw Lionel Richie last night and I didn't think it would sort of bring on all the feels that it did for me today, but it has. So I have a really super challenging relationship with my dad right now. It's so hard for me because he feels like, or should I say, I think he feels like I am sort of shutting down to him, and I feel like he's shutting down to me, and we can't seem to bridge the gap. And my dad is one of my favorite people in the world. He is so dedicated to his family. He is so hardworking and caring, and there's so many qualities about him that I admire. He really made a life for himself and for my mom and for me, and there's nothing that he wouldn't do for me or my kids, either of my ex-husbands. That's just who he is. If you need help, you call him and he will be there for you in any capacity that he can. So my mom's the same way. But they're just very different. She's friendly, outspoken, energetic, sort of life of the party, whereas he's a very quiet, in the background sort of. And they balance each other out, you know. They're good people, and they're good people who have done the very best that they could to give me an amazing life, and they have, and I'm so grateful for them and for my life, and for just the relationship that they have with my kids and all of that. But in the last couple years, it's just become problematic because I can't really understand why, but it shifted to this, I don't know, my dad really and I think some of it has to do with aging and feeling needed. I always have to put like my therapist hat on and figure out why the fuck people are doing the things that they do, so that I have some understanding and empathy for them. And I do think it's some, like, he wants to make sure that we're okay, because he's not always going to be here. And I appreciate that. I love that. And I also I have a really different way of living life than my dad does. And I respect the way that he's lived his. He just has a hard time respecting the way that I live mine. And it's become an issue. And so I have set a boundary that I don't want to focus our relationship around financial plans or planning or budgeting, or I just want to keep that out of our relationship. And I have communicated that boundary. I have set firm in that boundary, and a lot of what that looks like in real time is ignoring him. And it feels terrible. I'm not going to lie. Like, boundaries are often not fun, like, it's terrible when he tells me that he's struggling because I won't answer certain things that he's asking or whatever. But at the same time, I feel so much freer. And I've also said, like, I want to be your daughter. And I don't know how to do that, but I try, here and there. And one thing that my dad and I have really always connected with was music. Growing up, we listened to music, so much music together. Whitney Houston, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, Mariah Carey, the Commodores. Like, there's so many musical things remind me of him. And we used to watch all the music award shows together. And a couple years ago, I asked him, Debbie Gibson, that was a big one we listened to too. Debbie Gibson was coming to a little venue in Old Saybrook, and I invited him, and he said no, which I think I've brought this up before, maybe an exclusive podcast episode, that he said no to that. I like literally am trying not to hold on to that. I know that my dad also, he has tinnitus from Vietnam, and so it's not always like just I don't want to go. It's not comfortable for him. But it hurt me. And and I don't know, I had something that made me think of him, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I texted him. And so it's almost like we're at this like standstill where I won't respond to things about finances, and he won't respond to things about life. And what does that leave? It leaves no relationship. And so we're cool. Like, when I go over to my parents' house for, the pool or barbecues or celebrating someone's birthday or Father's Day, like, it's cool, but it just feels, it's just very off. And for me, who's always been pretty close to my parents, it feels really sad. And so last night I went to Lionel Richie, which is like my entire childhood. And we loved Lionel Richie. We loved him. I have a very vivid memory of him taking me to Caldor when I was little. And we were buying a new cassette tape. For all you youngins, that's how we listened to music back in the day. I don't know if there are other youngins that are here. I probably not. But and we would often do that. We get like cassette tapes and listen to them together. And we were supposed to get a new Lionel Richie tape. And then my dad was like, nope, I heard that this lady is really good. We're going to get this Whitney Houston tape. It was her first album. All at once, I looked around and found that you were with another. Okay, I won't do that to you. But that album. And I was so fucking mad. I was an only child brat. I can still be a brat sometimes, but I was an only child brat. And, my parents catered to me. So it's embarrassing sometimes when I think of how I reacted to things. But I changed. I changed, and I love that when people are like, "You don't seem like an only child." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, because I've grown." But there are still only child things about me. Like I don't like to share sometimes. Anyways, back to the story. So he made the executive decision to get Whitney Houston, and I was a little bit pissed. I don't really know if I had a fit, but I definitely was like, I don't want that. I want Lionel. So we got Whitney Houston, and I fucking fell in love with that album. But it just makes me laugh thinking about how deep my love for Lionel Richie is. So we went to the concert. I literally watched my whole childhood flash before my eyes. He sang with Kenny Rogers on the screen. It was so fucking good. That tore my heart out. And then he, like, We Are the World, like, We Are the World was like my family's song. We listened to that on a fucking record. Oh my God. I just have memories of like Christmases with playing that song and all my aunts and uncles singing, and it was just like the happiest of memories for me. So this morning came along, and I texted both of my parents. I said, "Guess where I went last night?" And I sent some videos of Lionel Richie, and my mom responded, and my dad hasn't said a word. And it just like rips my heart out, like, this is someone who is so special to me, who I just can't get to a point with that we can move forward. And I know he's older, he's 70, he's 79. And Tucker always kindly, because he's still really close with my parents, and my dad has talked to him about it, and he always kindly, gently reminds me that he is, older. He's not always going to be around. I know that. I could also not be, you know what I mean? Like, anything can happen at any time. And I just say to Tucker, I say, I want a relationship with him. I'm not saying I don't want a relationship with him. I just want to be his daughter and to talk about life, and not how much I'm saving for emergency expenses, or I just or what chemicals I put in the pool today. And it comes from a place of caring. It's just, to me, it doesn't work in my life anymore. And so the options are, what? Go back on my boundary and do that, or do like this, continuously break my own heart. And I mean, honestly, it does feel good. It does feel good. And it's so funny. I recorded the parts you just heard before the party, and I just left the party to finish the recording because it was at their lake house, so there wasn't much service when I was recording earlier. And I will tell you, there's not a lot of things that I'm jealous of, because I feel like jealousy is such a good feeling to have, because if you have it, you can say, okay, what is it about this situation or this person or this experience that makes me feel jealousy, and how can I implement that in my life if it's something that I long for? And being at that party, something that I think is so fucking cool is going, or the ability to hang out with your families or your family and talk about how much you fucking hate Trump together. Like that is something that I'm jealous of, that I don't have. And I just think it's really cool. So it was really, really nice to see those people. I love them so much. But anyways, back to my parents. It does feel good. The boundary does feel good for me to have set. And, adding in politics is another thing that's made this all very tricky, because although we don't talk about it, we don't agree on it. And it's a really challenging relationship. And actually, one of the people that was just at that party has parents, or her mom is a big Trumper. And she was saying, I said, do you see them a lot? And she said, well, yeah, like, they're elderly. I know they're not going to be around for that long. And again, because those words are so triggering for me, knowing that the same is true for my parents, but I'm not willing to sort of overlook those big things.
it's just interesting. It's interesting. And, that's why it's our effing journey. So that was the other thing that I wanted to talk about today, aside from what was going on with my parents, is Love Island. And hang with me, because I know a lot of people in my demographic and maybe your demographic don't watch Love Island. I started watching. One of the things like that really helps with parenting, I think, is relating to your kids with their interests. And I know every time I've watched a show with Kaylin, it's, enhanced our relationship. And same thing with Declan. We like to watch that. Oh my God, I can't remember what this show is called, but there's like many, many seasons of it. And it's a different like thing every episode. Like you don't have to watch them in order. Black Mirror might maybe it. Anyways, and so it's nice to connect on that level. If you don't have something else to connect on, right? Like just find a level of connection with your kids. And I know sometimes when people are like, oh, I don't want my kid to watch that. It's so hard to censor your kids, and if their friends are watching it, they're gonna watch it. So it's best to watch it with them so that you can sort of have the conversations that are important for them to hear about and learn about, and just give them things to think about. So Love Island, I hopped on the bandwagon this year because Kaylin was watching it. And it's funny, Maddocket does not like to watch TV, nor does she like to watch movies. And part of that is because she has the attention span of a squirrel. But it's funny, like, she doesn't watch Love Island, but she watches, like, the quick little videos on YouTube Shorts or TikTok. So she knows what's going on. So we're able to have conversations about the behavior of the people in the shows. And there's important things to think about, I think, when you are watching a show such as Love Island that, talks about dating and, how men treat women and all of these topics that come up. And there's two scenarios that I wanted to talk about. One is Kenzie. Kenzie is the blonde girl in the Love Island cast. She is a dancer, so she's always doing splits. I know that bothers some people. I think it's hysterical. But what's really cool about Kenzie is, and the show is almost like wrapping up, so this is like the finale is, it will have happened when you hear this episode. But one of the things about, I like to sort of, fighting the patriarchy, fucking the patriarchy, dismantling the patriarchy. There's just things that you learn as you go. It's just like becoming a vegan for me. You sort of like peel back the onion and you learn so many more things. And the patriarchy is one of those things. It's like, I really pay attention to the messaging that I'm hearing. I pay attention to the, things that we're seeing and what is being presented to us. And something that came up about Kenzie, which I thought was so interesting, is that she explored a couple different connections during her time in the villa. And, she was really made to feel badly about doing that. And what's unusual about that is, or not, it's not unusual. It happens all the fucking time. The guys are allowed to do whatever the fuck they want to do. And she was honest with the connections for the most part and wasn't committed to any of these guys that she was exploring with, yet she was sort of slut shamed. And that's the patriarchy. That's the patriarchy making it okay for men to do what they do. Boys will be boys. And women are held to a different standard. I mean, I know for any woman, the first time I was called a slut was when I was 14 years old. And I had a boyfriend that I actually really cared about. And that was the first time I was called a slut. Why? Because a girl was threatened by me, And so I don't know. I thought that was really interesting about Kenzie, just sort of how America and even the girls in the villa at times, viewed her. But some of the guys were given, I mean, I don't know about free passes, because I'm talking about the next one. The next situation I want to talk about is Sincere and Melanie. They are a couple who, it's been problematic. They connected early on, and I think they do have a really good connection, but other people don't believe that they do, nor do they believe that she should stay with him, even if they do, because he has sort of bounced around from different connections and lied to multiple women on the show. So he's definitely done her dirty, and which, whatever, I to each his own. No, it's not to each his own. I would hope if that was my daughter she would hold herself to a higher standard. I know she would, because she's totally disgusted with the whole situation. But what's interesting, and what's been consistently interesting in me watching this show, and in watching this show side by side with Kaylin and her younger friends, like they're all in like the young 20s, is that I have such different feelings about different couples or different people and couples on the show than they do. And I'm not really sure why, but they have no tolerance for Sincere and Melanie. And I like them together. I think they do have an authentic connection. And I've struggled with this because I also see what they're saying. Like, she deserves better. She deserves someone who didn't treat her like she did. But I really do, at the same time, see the improvements that he's made. And I also, and this is why I wanted to talk about it, because, and the reason I wanted to bring it up today is I sort of changed my opinion when I finished watching the episode from last night. Basically, they had a family day, and the different families came to see them in the villa, and they have been watching all along. So most of the people were really accepting and loving and supportive of their couple. And in this particular scenario with Sincere and Melanie, neither one was happy at all about how Sincere had treated Melanie. And it was sad to see, actually. Like, it was sad that, I mean, as a therapist, as a mom, I would hope, even though I had seen things with my own eyes, that I would enter a situation like that asking my child how they felt about it, instead of sort of walking in and spewing out all my opinions. But what I thought was really cool was, after Family Day happened, Melanie had a conversation with the girls in the villa, and she said, which is why I'm talking about it on the It's Your Effin' Journey podcast, she said to them that her thought process with sort of seeing this through with Sincere was that was a decision that she would have to make, and she was sort of sharing how she would say to her sister, have I ever led myself down a wrong path? And I loved that, because it goes along the lines of It's Your Effin' Journey. Nobody knows what the fuck is right for us except for us. And how her and Sincere feel as a couple is none of my goddamn business, right? Of course it's my business because they're on TV, so we feel like we can talk about it. But we are seeing 1 hour edited for our TV entertainment. We don't know all the conversations and things that these people have shared or been through, or the feelings that they feel, or whatever. It's ignorant to think that we do. So I loved that, like, this is my fucking journey. And it's not anybody else's to decide. It's not anybody else's to determine. It's not anybody else's to judge. And I think that there's, and I'm sort of dealing with this with a situation. Let's just share it all today. So I have a situationship that rocked my world in the fall. This is like 9 months ago. 9 months ago of dissecting and feeling and all of this. And basically, we've been like talking very authentically and like friends. And it feels really good to me. But I have started to like share that with people in my life. And I've sort of gotten some differing opinions about it. Most people have been pretty cool. And I've shared with people who I thought would be pretty cool about it. Not the ones who would be like, what the fuck, Melissa? Because I have to determine what's right for me in relationships, in who I talk to, in how it feels. And I don't think things are so cut and dry. I was saying this to my therapist the other day, like, you go on Instagram and, you see these videos, like, if he wanted to, he would, let him go. And I agree with these things to an extent. I just don't think that they're all, as I said, so cut and dry. And there's so much more that makes up a person, or makes up a connection, or makes up a relationship than just these black and white things. And that's why we have to have the wherewithal to figure out what's right for ourselves. And if Melanie wants to explore that connection with Sincere, and she won't feel satisfied until she does, who cares? And if she tries it with Sincere and he ends up fucking some other girl like she's scared he will, then she can make a decision if she needs to. But who's to say that's going to happen? Maybe they have a great connection, and maybe when he doesn't have bombshells all up on him that are wanting to make out with him, Maybe it'll be a different situation outside of the villa. But I loved that she was trusting herself instead of just following because her parents and her sister were being protective. Because I think that when it comes to anything like that, and this I think is relevant to a lot of different people, if you are wondering why someone is with someone or why they're putting up with something, instead of judging that relationship, maybe ask them why. What are they getting out of that relationship? How do they feel when they're with that person? Because I think that that would be really informative instead of like making judgments about somebody else, because we're not in that relationship. We don't fucking know. So I know that was a lot. It was like a lot I just covered, but hopefully this was helpful. Take a screenshot, share it in your stories, send it to a friend. I'm trying to get really much better. I think everywhere I go now, someone tells me they like my social media. It is so fucking nice, but I am like so embarrassed when it happens. And I was talking about this with my therapist at our last session, and she was like, it makes sense. Like you're vulnerably sharing yourself, and people are seeing it and then appreciating it. And I guess that's true. Like because I am sharing so much more of myself, my thoughts out in public versus in my personal stories, it does make sense. But I have to be cooler. Like one of the things I've always talked about is like if somebody compliments you, don't be like, oh, this old dress. This I've had this for 10 years. Just say thank you. If somebody says, I love your shirt, thank you. You're beautiful today. Thank you. I love your podcast. Thank you. I love your social media. Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. I'm glad it resonates with you. Like, that's what I have to start practicing and saying. And I know it's a habit and I'll become better at it, but it feels like when people say it to me in any setting, it feels like my soul is cut open and I'm on like an operating table and people are like looking at my insides. I feel so uncomfortable. So if you are somebody who has said that to me, I'm sorry that I get so fucking weird, because it really, like, I don't know what to do. But I have a plan and I'm going to start to be better about it. So I cannot thank you enough for being here, for listening, for all of your support. I love you. Mwah.